Hello, everybody. This is Heather with Ghost Education 101, and I am so excited to be here with my two guests. We are going to be talking about some of the scariest cases that we've had, and like we were discussing before we just came live, some of the stuff might be scary to other people, but it might not be scary to some. I hope that came out right. I think I stumbled over my words. But anyway, thank you for joining us. For those of you who don't know me and are new to Ghost Education 101, I'm Heather Lee. I'm the founder of Exploration Paranormal out here in Las Vegas, as well as we just released a documentary with motion picture video called Real Haunts Ghost Towns, so make sure you check that out. And I'm going to let my two special guests introduce themselves. Robert, if you want to go first.
Thank you. I'm Robert Murphy. I'm the founder of Elite Paranormal Society based out of Keedysville, Maryland. Ken?
My name is Kenneth Torres. I am a regional director for the Warren Legacy Foundation for Paranormal Research and the founder of Paranormal Connection out here in San Francisco Bay Area.
Okay, and that's also something I forgot. I'm the Western Regional Director for the USA for Warren Foundation as well. So basically, everyone has had a paranormal encounter, especially you guys are watching us because you want to hear different stories and you want to learn how to handle the different situations. So I'm going to let Robert start first if you want to talk about a case and then maybe kind of give some tips about how you handled that. And if anyone has any questions, please make sure you direct it to myself, Robert, or Ken so I know exactly who to direct the question to.
All right. Well, as far as my team goes, we do mostly residential cases. That's pretty much what we stay to. We actually treat locations. And one of the more interesting locations we had, all locations have a particular reputation about it. So I'm not really, unlike a lot of people where you really delve into the research behind what's going on, we're researching, trying to find out. We want to document it, not just hearsay. We need to have something that's actually proved. So we'll go to like the police records and whatnot. So my team medium ends up getting a call from a friend that she knows that's into real estate. And he's got a location that he turns around and has sold 3 times in 1 year. So it's like people see things, have issues, and out the door they go. Sometimes they'll leave all their belongings and just get out. Every time we hear about these horrible stories, everybody says, why don't they leave? In this case, it was happening. So he was really concerned about it. The last client that he had, homeowner that was there, was a husband, wife, and a 10-year-old autistic child. The background of the house itself, after we go ahead and look into it, documented, there's like four suicides by gunshot inside the house. There's a suicide by gunshot outside of the house. 2 different teenage boys at different times had fallen down the stairs and mysteriously broke their neck. It was a very low slope to it. And another woman who was practicing black witchcraft, unfortunately, hung herself as well. So we have a lot of what's going on in this location. So we're going to go to check it out. And the very first time we go there, we're going with the client, his girlfriend, just to kind of see what the location presents to itself. When we get there, we find out that the last person that was there actually was the last residence again was the husband, the wife, and the 10-year-old autistic daughter. Well, she had got to a point where her bedroom was on the 2nd floor, and she began chewing the blinds and the trim of a window trying to get out of her room. So because they had already experienced several other things, the husband goes ahead and sends them out west. So he's there. He keeps a mattress right next to the door because he doesn't want to be in the house. He just wants to sell the house because it's scaring him. So the last night he bothered staying there, he was on his computer, on his mattress, and it grabbed him by the ankle and slid him across the floor. So he went ahead and shot out of there pretty quick. Again, without any documentation, you could say hearsay. So we turn around and we go to investigate, go to the house, find out what's going to go, see what it's going to do. We get to the house and we set things up. We do most of our shows live as far as our investigations. Try to do them live, let people go ahead and judge for themselves what's actually going on. Gets to a point, we're upstairs in the attic, and a lot of the guests start talking. We have some people with really good abilities all the way out to Australia, and they'll kind of give us some insight what they believe is actually going to happen. They start talking about things ramping up. They say it's about the attack, whatever. We end up cutting away from the second round. That was just during the first round. The second round, I decided to stay in the same place because it was like the activity was picking up. The second round, the activity does end up picking up, whereas our guest has a girlfriend there. She's actually in front of the camera. And partway through this investigation, she goes into a fetal position and goes from being just happy-go-lucky behind the person behind the camera could see her. She was perfectly fine. Now she's in a fetal position, obviously looking like she's in a lot of pain. So I go over to start talking to her, and I explained if we ever do anything and something was to go in a bad direction, these are the steps I'll take. I don't want to touch somebody, place a sign of the cross or anything like that without letting them know ahead of time. So I had already told her what I was going to do. So as I start with the holy water and I start doing a quick prayer, she throws my hand off to the side and was like, I don't think so. And just a completely different attitude, different voice, the whole 9 yards. I'm thinking I offended this woman. At this point, it still hasn't clicked in. Shortly thereafter, when you go back, you actually listen to it. We had a spirit box running, and the commands are coming through the spirit box that she's listening to. When it tells, grab my arm, at one point it says, arm, grab the arm. She grabs my arm when I start going back to the holy water. Shortly after, it ends up getting to a point where it took 3 people to try to get her out of the attic because it started getting rather loud. So we were trying to cut away from it as fast as we could. She could remember she said she could remember the nails raking across, like pulling her scalp. She felt like it was pulling her scalp apart. And she could remember the burnt, rotting flesh, the smell of it, and the fact that she was supposed to attack me, but she couldn't remember most of the rest of what happened at the time. We get her out of the location, try to make sure everybody's safe at that point. We ended up going back 2 weeks later, come find out the realtor at that point was like, hey, I've got somebody I'm going to go to settlement with. Can you go ahead and get rid of it? Like, we're going to go in with Harry Potter's wand and knock it right out of there. So we ended up going back a second time. When we go back the second time to actually treat the house, when we pull up to the house, we hear about this infestation. More than half the house is covered by insects all the way across. It's like the whole house is just, it looks like it's moving because there's so many insects across there. Who knows why? Again, I can't see it. Our medium she evidently can see everything that's going on at the time because she's definitely letting us know what's going. We go to push. At one point, she had a very, very large sage bundle. It's one of the largest ones. Cheech and Chong would be thrilled. It was one of the largest ones you've ever seen. And what we did is I ended up pushing from the bottom to push it, whatever it was in the house, up to the top where we were at. And as she's walking up the steps, with the sage bundle, obviously you get the embers on the end of it, nice and hot, so it's smoking. It goes completely out in a heartbeat. There's no smoke, no nothing. It just stops. Nothing works in there. And we had a number of different issues that go on. Just so you have a clue, as far as it wasn't just what we experienced there physically. We only had one camera running. And going back to the first time while we were there, we had one camera that was running, but 2 different videos posted on Facebook that night at the same time. One is without the attack and one is with the attack. They're both unedited. So kind of strange anomaly to have occur at a location. Ultimately, after we treated the location, the new homeowners have no clue what has ever transpired in that location. Ken? Go to yours.
Wow, that's an awesome story. I've got several stories. We'll start off with one that I did last year with my team. It was out here in Sacramento. My team and I, we get a call that there is a 4-year-old child that is talking to an imaginary friend, and that imaginary friend is outside in the backyard. And so what ends up happening is our researcher tells us, hey, Ken, we've got this call. This 4-year-old kid is saying that there's a little boy that's telling him, I need to go inside your house, but you need to kill your mom and your dad. So, it's a 4-year-old kid. So we're like, okay, cool. Kind of hair raising. So we go, we check it out. We check out the area. The home was really, really dark and ominous. You could tell that there was a lot of stuff going on in there, in the sense of there wasn't a strong emotional connection with the family, and there were certainly signs of emotional abuse. And so, but the most important thing was the child. So my team and I, we went out there. We checked out the area. We were drawn to a location in the backyard because that's where initially the activity had started. But the story is that when the folks moved into the house about 5 years ago, there was something buried in the shed. So within that shed, they saw something and they took it out. They dug it up, and they said that they found treasure chests and a little treasure chest of like little diamonds and maps and like little kids' toys. And so they thought nothing of it. So they moved it, they disturbed it. And so allegedly that when they started moving that's when these things started happening. Here and there, they would hear voices, they would hear knocking on the door, they would see people, shadow figures walking around. And so we're like, okay, well, it sounds like that maybe whatever or whoever lived on this property, that actual burial that they had on there was blessed, because they had mentioned, oh, I heard voices. I heard a voice. Okay, sorry. I kind of heard like a whisper in the background. It might have been my my headphones. But anyway, going back to that, I was like, well, when you found this box, was there anything around it? They go, yeah, there was little religious medals around it. There were little symbols and there were sigils and all that. And we're like, okay, well, maybe you guys disturbed something and moved it. And I go, well, what did you guys do with it? They go, well, we just tossed it in the trash. We didn't think of anything of it. And so like, oh, how long ago was this? Well, this was a few years ago. Okay. So I guess the owner that previously lived in the house did expire on the property, but he and his grandchildren would have treasure hunts around the house, and that's how he would keep them entertained. So in the old garage, you can see that there was pictures of maps of Sacramento County, Gold River, and so I thought that it was something very unique. And so my understanding of it was, the spirit wasn't happy what was going on, and maybe there was some type of other energy that came on to the property. So we go to the house, we investigate, we get a couple of readings on our SLS camera. We have one of our old psychics that used to work with us out in Iowa, and we're like, hey, we have her on live. And she's like, well, there's something going on there. And we didn't tell her this, but we did get confirmation that there was an individual that died on there was the older man. But it appears to before that as well, about 40, 50 years ago, someone had committed suicide in the house. And so we go and we're looking around. We get a couple of things on the SLS camera. All of a sudden, we have our equipment and everything just starts shutting off. The cameras, everything starts turning off. All of a sudden, the lights go out, and we're like, okay, well, this, it's probably just the power, So we go, we check the fuse. They're like, no, everything is fine. So the lights start flickering and all that. So we get everything up. And I'm like, I grew up in church, ministry. And I'm like, in the name of Jesus, I expel all evil that's here. In the name of Jesus Christ, you have no power. We are here to liberate this family of this, whatever it is. And so as soon as we say that, the lights come back on. We start saying a prayer. We bless the house. We go to the back area where the child saw the other child at the swing. And so we bless that area. The crazy thing is that in Sacramento that day, it was 98 degrees. There was no wind at all. It was just straight up dry heat. And so when we go to the backyard, all of a sudden the wind chimes around the play area just start going off. And we're looking around. We have this on video, and I have to have my other researcher send it to me. And we're looking around. There's no wind. The trees aren't moving, but all of a sudden the wind chimes are going. And so I put up, symbols of the cross along the area. We bless it with sage, and we put salt around it, and we bind it, and I say a prayer and a blessing, and I give the family Saint Benedict medals for the child because they were really, really afraid. After we did that, the environment felt light, and we constantly check in on them, and they haven't had any issues since then. So we're grateful and thankful for that. We do think that there was potentially some type of transient energy that was just taking advantage of the maybe the emotions that the grandfather felt, or maybe of the spirit that haven't passed on yet. So luckily, there haven't been any issues yet, and the kids are fine. The baby is fine. Grandma and dad are happy. That's it.
Nice.
And as I mentioned, guys, make sure you ask questions. Just let us know if you have any questions about the stories we're telling, or even questions about the paranormal. We're all more than happy to answer those. So the story I want to touch on was a residential that I did with my previous team before starting my own team. And I want to say something about this as a word of caution is when a previous group from our team went and did an investigation, and they had already had in our minds that this was a bad place, bad energy. So we were already scared going in because of the previous reports from the previous investigation. So if you guys go investigate a location a second time, try not to get the rest of your team scared before going in, because our defenses, they were up, but I think that might have fueled the activity that we had when we were there. And what it was is it was a residential. The daughter had been dabbling unknowingly what to do with witchcraft and different pagan rituals, which I feel is fine, but you kind of need to know what you do and have a little guidance when you're doing it. And because she didn't have any guidance, the mom felt that she brought in a whole bunch of energy and entities into the home. But our research, or actually our investigation, revealed that it was entities that had been there because they were comfortable and they had talked about how they'd been there for a while. We ended up with more than 200 EVPs with no assistance, no spirit box, no nothing, and plus also another couple hundred with the spirit box. When we were there, I was standing in the master bathroom looking in the closet that she had, and I could see an entity that was over 6 feet tall just kind of lurking and staring at us. And that kind of just being face to face with something that's bigger than you, it was almost like staring at the face of a bear is how I felt. And then about 15 minutes later, we were conducting the EVP session, and we had a guy on our team over 6 feet tall. He would be the one that they would go after first because he would be considered the strongest. And just standing next to him, conducting the EVP session, his eyes just went completely black. It was like his eyes weren't even there. And he said he time slipped because he lost all track of time, had no idea what was going on. In my head, I'm freaking out because it's like, okay, what if he turns on me? Because we're in the, we're up there investigating in the room. So that was a little bit scary to me. And all of a sudden he just, I'm counting in my head. I'm like, he has 30 seconds and we're leaving. And before I got to 30, it was almost like the spirit knew. Before I got to 30, he was back to normal. And he's like, where am I? And he had no idea even where he was. So that kind of like just threw the whole investigation off. And later on, we were doing a spirit box session, and we had the word congruism come over the spirit box, clear as day. And from what I've learned from Reverend Sean Whittington, who was with us a couple weeks ago, he had said that it has to do with demonic entities, but it was almost like a preparing yourself to deal with it, like going to confession or getting ready to, combat this entity. So it was kind of shocking because when I reached out to a couple other pastors that I knew, they shut down the conversation. They're like, I don't want to talk about that. It's like, and then they would ask me, are you going back to that house? And I'm like, no. And they're like, good. So it was kind of like, okay, what's going on here? And granted, all of that was kind of frightening because that was actually my first residential. I had done other smaller cases, helped with interviews, but this was the first actual case that I went on for a residential client. And they had called me in because I have experience in witchcraft and Wicca and all of that. And they wanted me to bless the house based on the pagan religion. So I had done a cascaria sealing of the home, and you could feel the house just get brighter. But when I was in her, she had a huge garden tub and there's a window behind it. So trying to seal the window with the cascaria, something literally knocked my feet out from underneath me, throwing me in the air, and I landed on my knees in the tub.
Oh, man.
And that was my holy crap, they can hurt me moment. and so, but once we left, she sold her house and we've never heard anything else after that. So, but that was my first real wake up call when it comes to paranormal activity.
I'm glad you're okay though.
Yeah. It was a wake up call.
Yeah. Well, and I like what you said there earlier. Reverting back to the story that I had, you do things according to what people believe in. And so when I was blessing the house, I did it according to their Christian beliefs. I know a lot of people have different beliefs, and, I'm open to it. I think that in this field, having a different belief system and being unilateral and having different diverse backgrounds really helps. So that was awesome that you did the pagan ritual to help them out. Mm-hmm. And so I just wanted to clarify that, because I know a lot of people are going to be like, oh my gosh, you said Jesus Christ or whatever. Not a lot of people identify with that, but just so people can know. I would say you always want to find out what your client's religious background is, what their belief system is, and kind of go according to that. And obviously, there are times when you do things and you're like, well, maybe I should have done things differently. But at that time, it's like, well, it seems to have worked, and you had an experience.
Yeah, it was, and it was amazing that it was all in one investigation. It was because, like I had said, I had done other investigations at locations, but it was my first actual residential helping a client. And even though we didn't label it demonic, it was the closest I think I've gotten to it face to face. And it could be based on the EVPs that we got. It was a real interesting case.
There's a lot of negative energy out there.
Yeah.
Especially last year.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Yeah.
I just remembered there was a part of the case that I forgot to mention. And, but the one thing that kind of shocked me is when I came home. And I came home and I wanted to just get the energy off of me. And in my house, I have crystals at all four corners. I have sage, rosemary, and thyme on top of our door so nothing can come through with me. And when I closed the door, I locked it. And I was probably like 2 or 3 feet away from the door. And it sounded like someone banged on the door really loud, almost angry they couldn't get in. And it echoed through the home. And when I looked out the peephole, if someone would have banged on the door, I would have seen them running away. And there was nobody there. So that it was like he followed me home.
Yeah. Yeah, they can do that.
Find it hard to believe that actually happens, but it really does happen. And,
yes.
That's why we do so much live. We're trying to allow people to get the opportunity to see, but of course, we can't capture everything. I wish we could, because it would really... The stories are one thing. It would definitely blow your mind to actually be able to experience it live, like you did with that. I mean, right. There's nobody there, and you get that sudden bang.
Right. Like you said, if we could just document our personal experiences, or even, like the feelings we get. If there was a way just to document, this is how we're feeling, and this is what's causing it, it would make so many more people a believer.
Yeah. You're gonna have skeptics out there regardless. But right. I think what we do is just getting that documentation. Honestly, I think the paranormal in a way is also it's another form of science. We're looking at different energies, we're capturing different things, and I think people are being more open and susceptible to the idea that this stuff is real and it's out there. And you can thank a couple of TV shows for that as well.
And Robert, Philip actually sent me a message. He wanted me to ask you about Sadie and his old hag.
Oh, yes. Well, matter of fact, I'll get to those here shortly. But yeah, Philip has definitely gone ahead and been interactive in several of my investigations by far. And the old hag actually eventually ended up being an attachment that I received. I've had 2 attachments so far. It's hard for people to understand attachments. People ask, can they actually come back with you? Can something happen? And it's not like everybody, normally is going to go ahead, something can attach to them. You're basically going through extreme stress, extreme depression. If you're alcoholism or drug addiction, those are where you're most susceptible to have something like that, because you're not under full protection. And of course, we're putting ourselves closer to the harm than most regular people do. So for most people that are going out to investigate, as long as you're not antagonizing, the chance of you getting attachment is extremely low by far. But the one with Philip in particular, I had a sketch artist working with my medium to actually draw what she looks like. I actually have a picture of her. I'll see if I can pull it up actually in a minute. That one, my wife, my ex-wife, she was Native American, and she had abilities. And when I came back from a location, she was like, I don't think you came back alone. I'm like, yeah, whatever. Kind of blow it off, if you say so. And then Philip, out of the blue, now you have to understand, Philip is down in Georgia. I'm in Maryland. And at the time, we would text from time to time. That was pretty much it. I had not gone live on anything, have not talked about anything. And he hits me up and says, look, I'm not trying to get into your personal business, but I keep seeing this hag. And we had a location where this hag was at. It was the last time we actually did that location. We had a lot of activity at the location. But the ironic part is, here now I've got my wife at the time telling me, the next day I've got Philip hit me up about it. and he's describing what she looks like. I'm like, okay, well, that's pretty cool. That's confirmation. Philip's got abilities. I don't. Okay. I can't really sense any of that stuff. So that was unique in itself. Then a person who has done Reiki on me turns around, hits me out of the blue. I mean, I've only had Reiki done over the past few years, probably 3 times. And she's like, when do you want to do a session? I'm like, what? I mean, out of the blue. So there's a bigger picture that goes on that we realize being in the field, but most people will never realize. You think about coincidences, and then you find out there's a lot of things that are not coincidental at all. Things are placed in your path. People are placed in your path. I end up going to the location or going to her place, and she does the Reiki, and I'm going, it's so weird because I could feel it when she grabs you down by your feet, your ankles. That's when I can feel her actually touch. You close your eyes, you're laying back on a table. But you know how if you have your eyes closed, you can actually see a shadow go across over top? I mean, it's very distinct. It's there. I was like, I made a comment. I said, this is so strange. Every time I come in here, I'm never alone. She goes, that's funny. I was going to say the same thing. Because there's some old hag looking thing right here in front of you. And I'm like, okay, now here's 3. We ended up going live at that weekend to do our live talk. We used to do a weekly live talk. And my team medium and other people started hitting up about this hag standing behind me. And everybody kept using the same term as a hag, this old, nasty looking, and was saying that she's right behind me, which was pretty ironic. So Philip he'd already hit on so many different things. I already knew he had a clue, but for everybody to start having so much of the same detail, that was beyond unique. That was a great experience. You guys have something, go ahead. I'm going to see if I can pull it up in just a second.
Okay, yeah, and then I know I have a question for you that someone asked, so we'll get to that after the next story.
Let's see if you can. I know I got things in front of. Oh, come on, get off there. All right. I'll pull it up in a minute.
Okay. Let me get. I was going to say, go ahead, and then I'll pull up the questions.
Oh, I was just going to say that I like the idea that now there's a lot of people coming in together and trying to do this whole paranormal thing. A lot of people are doing this with good intentions and they want to try to help other people out. And I think that is a beautiful thing. Just like Robert said, I think this field is a calling in itself. You really have to genuinely want to help people. You just can't go around running around to haunted buildings and stirring stuff up and, not helping out. And so, and that's one thing I do want to say. I always give people this advice. If you're going to do this field, if you're going to be in this field, just make sure you do it with an open heart, an open mind, and you want to make sure you genuinely want to help people, because there are things out there that can hurt you, and if you do things the wrong way, you're going to potentially end up hurting clients as well. I am a big advocate for the respect in this field and doing things the right way. No secret, I'm a retired Marine combat veteran. I will tell you how it is. I've got a background in counterterrorism. And if I see something and I don't like it, I'll put you in your place and I'll tell you about it. And so what I've seen in this field as well, too, is that I've seen a lot of people just going out here and doing these things, and they shouldn't be in this field. It's like a doctor. Not everyone can be a doctor. So I just give everyone a caution of advice. If you're going to get into this field, just make sure you're doing it for the right reasons. Don't do it because you want to get TV famous or because you want a book deal. Those aren't the right reasons, because honestly, you can end up hurting yourself, your team, and other people. And if what I say offends you, I don't apologize, but sometimes people need to hear the truth, and that's how it is. This field, what we all do, the 3 of us, this is a passion. This is what we love to do. We genuinely want to help people out. So please make sure you're doing this for the right reasons.
Right. Absolutely. And what I always, I always tell people.
Absolutely. You couldn't have said it better, Ken. Absolutely agree with that.
Yeah. And the one thing I always tell people is as long as you're in this field for the right reasons and you do your research and you become knowledgeable and other people start recognizing you as being authentic, the book deals are going to come. The TV shows are going to come. The interviews are going to come. So don't go in it looking for that. As long as you're not looking for it and you do everything for the right reasons, all of that's going to come your way.
Yeah. I mean, and this field is so vast. I mean, we deal with residential cases. There are people that go into like the haunted buildings and abandoned buildings. I'm not that type of guy. I don't really want to go into an abandoned building. I don't want to get poked or prodded by some rust going up the stairs. So I leave that to the other people. But as long as you're doing it for the right reasons, I mean, it's going to be a very rewarding career in a sense. You know what I mean? It's you know, you volunteer your time to help other people, and I think you know, that's one of the biggest gifts. Self-sacrifice. Self-sacrifice is a really big gift, and you know, we self-sacrifice ourselves every day. You know, helping other people to try to help them get rid of their problems.
Exactly. You said you have a question. I just want to throw this little picture of the hag, if you can see it all right. I know it's, but it was done by a sketch artist, but it was really cool to be able to get an idea what the person looked like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The question is for Rob, what is the most memorable personal experience you have had?
The most memorable is there was a location where our team medium said that there was a young boy that was at a location. It was about 5 years old. I ended up having a very, very personal connection with this little boy and trying to be able to prove it. I mean, we were doing a light session at a location. When we first got there for the first 2 cycles, the cycles, you know, we usually do 45 to 60 minutes, and then we'll go to another location. Both times I was out in back of the house, and the medium kept saying that this little boy was watching me the whole time. And they weren't having any activity in there. And then she asked me if I would go upstairs with the homeowners and just do one of the flashlight sessions. I had 6 flashlights, and he would not turn them on for anybody unless I asked him to. If I asked him to turn them on, and I could point to any one, I could tell him to brighten them, dim them. And when we're talking about a time reaction, we're talking about 10 seconds. I use 10 seconds as a window. If it's going to be 20 seconds, it doesn't count. You know, if it's got to be in a very, very tight window. But when you can sit there and say, can you turn 3 flashlights on, and they go, and you say, just turn one off, turn the one in the center off, and it goes, and the other 2 are still on, make that one dimmer, and it goes, boop. And this little boy got to a point where anything I thought he could do, everything is energy. And we understand, being in the field, that, you know, a lot of times we get ready to ask a question, the answer's already come out, especially if you're using spirit box or even sometimes EVPs, you'll already get the answer before we ask. And we don't necessarily hear them right away until we go back and we review the evidence. So they already know a lot of our thought process. And then when you get into the more negative side, it's like they know we're coming to a location before we even know we're coming to a location, which makes absolutely no sense. But it's happened so many times. Our team medium, all of a sudden, she's going, hey, this location that you have coming up that's got this woman that's being terrorized, and she gives extreme details. I'm like, I don't have that case. A day later, my phone's ringing, and there's the case. You know, it's like they know. It's very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the energy in itself. I mean, when it comes to the negative side, I think they have that ability to kind of like foresee things well, and we see that with darker cases. You know, you go into a possession case or an oppression case. You know, the person being taken over by the entity. A lot of times, they have forbidden knowledge. So yes. You know, if that's going on with inside a person, then obviously that dark energy is already going to have that pre-existing knowledge.
Okay, and this one's for me. Do you think it played off your being afraid to a point? And for the residential case, I do, because I've gone into a whole bunch of other locations, and I'm really not afraid of the paranormal. But for some reason on this case, I was, and I think it was just all the hype and the energy, and that boost in energy and excitement and anticipation and fear is something that the ghosts or spirits can pick up on and use to either attack us, interact with us, or even just kind of, they just take the energy away from us.
I think it's hard for a lot of people to realize that there's, you know, when people think of ghosts, they think of, or anything on the other side, they think of human spirits. And when you actually run into things that are not human, and it's like an entity can go through your mind. They're master manipulators is the best way of looking at them. Everything that is negative is not a demon. And this is my perspective. Everything's not a demon. You know, you do have demonic activity, and you can have an entity. An entity could be the type like the child, the one that turns around and impersonates a little boy to another child, try to befriend them, and then all of a sudden wants them to do some really bad things. Typically, that will be an entity that's going to do that, but they're excellent at getting into your head, and that's where we were talking about. Ken was saying, look, you know, make sure you're going into the field for the right reason and really get some education, because you can get an attachment. And if you get an attachment, you go in, you start provoking, And people think, well, nothing happened. They're not wearing watches. They've got all the time in the world. And so it doesn't have to happen in a month. But then you start finding out this person's life just goes completely into the dumpster. And people with attachments can get to a point where they'll have a voice in their head that's constantly telling them stuff, and nobody else around them can hear it. Try to go to sleep when something's talking to you 24/7. I see people with headphones on, blasting the stereo up, doing anything they can to try to get rid of these voices. And it's in our field, it's so close. Paranormal and mental illness, it's such a mirror copycat. I mean, if I have a person that's experiencing this type of behavior, they can't sleep, they have these horrible thoughts going through, they know they're supposed to do some really bad things to people around them, and they know that's not their thoughts. Well, not everybody, once the human mind gets broke down because you don't sleep for so long, sometimes those thoughts get carried out. And you hear about these in the news all the time where somebody all of a sudden goes and does something horrific. You talk to them and everybody says, oh no, that guy he was great. He was always, just a perfect gentleman. He would never hurt anybody. Well, it was never his quote intention to do that. It was just because he was affected and something did behind it. But when you have somebody, like if I'm going to treat somebody that has an attachment, again, I'm right on that fine line. I'm not a doctor. I can't tell if they have mental illness or not, and everybody says, oh, you need to go get a mental checkup. You need to get a physical checkup. It's not that cut and dry. I wish it was. But if I turn around and I work with somebody and do my little process as far as for removing an attachment, and the person never has an issue again, and the people around the family and everything else all goes, everything goes back to normal like it was, because the personality changes in the individual, the victim, dramatically. If they all of a sudden change in a matter of just being with me for an hour or two, I mean, you can say placebo effect to a point, but eventually you do it enough times, you see how it actually happens. And so how many people, it's like 20 years ago, if you said you heard voices or you could see something on the other side or you could see spirits or ghosts, they'd lock you away. Yeah. Now we call them mediums and psychics.
Yeah. Very true. Very true. And like you said, there is that fine line between mental illness and the paranormal. And so like in our team, we have a clinical psychologist, but her background is with paranormal psychology. And so a lot of times we consult her and we're like, hey, look, we've got this going on, this and that. And she goes, okay, well, she graciously donates her time. She's like, I'll meet with the client for an hour. And they're like, hey, she's like, Ken, you know what? I'm not seeing it, this and that. So maybe we've got something going on. But also too, when it comes to the darker stuff, I mean, not everything is demonic, but lately we have been dealing with demonic forces. We've got a situation in Costa Rica where, a little girl is being afflicted by an evil entity because her sister is sick out of nowhere. And there's just a lot of stuff that's going on. It's still an open case going on. And I can't get into too much detail, but we had our psychologist chime in on it. And so we've got the go-ahead. We are going to have our director, Chris McKinnell, assist on that case out in Costa Rica because it is really dark. It involves with Santa Muerte, black candles. It involves a curse. And so a lot of these things as well can affect the people to the point where it can cause a mental illness. And I like what Robert said earlier. These things can attack you. You may be just fine, but there is that ability later on down the road that you don't see these signs. All of a sudden you get sick out of nowhere. You have a personality change. You don't want to eat. You find yourself stressed. You find yourself anxious and angry all the time. And these are the effects of attachments, and so that's why it's really important when you go to these cases, do your research and protect yourself and your team.
Okay. This one's from Robin. She says that when she tells people that she's starting to do paranormal investigation, they think she's a devil worshiper. How do you address the naysayers, and what is the best way to present yourself on a professional investigation? You guys have any tips?
Yeah. Okay. So there's that linear way of thinking. So I'm assuming that with the devil worshiper, you have the old school, Christian mentality. I grew up Christian, Pentecostal, Baptist, so I know exactly what you're going through, Robin. So what I like to tell people is I'm not a devil worshiper. I just really genuinely want to help people out. And I think that it's important that as you present yourself professional, it's a gift. I'd say being in this field is a gift. Helping people out, it's a gift. And so you want to use your gift to help people out the best they can. Because let's be honest, a lot of spiritual establishments are not really educated in the paranormal. So it's only either black or white. There's no in between. So just present yourself professional. Just do things with a passion, with a love. And honestly, people are always going to say bad things about you. People say bad things about me all the time. I don't care. Just carry on. Just truck on with your life. Do what you feel is right. Do yourself, Robin. Don't worry about what other people do. Let your work speak for itself.
I agree. Don't fall into the negative. There are going to be people that are going to be naysayers, and that's right. In all sincerity, don't waste your time with it, though. That's why we do a lot. We just put it out there for people. I'm not going to try to convince anybody. I will put it out there for them. I have nothing to hide. If you have a question about anything I do, it's like when we use the flashlights. People go, well, where's remote control? I take the flashlights apart, right on camera, put it right up to the camera. I'll rip open a brand new pack and put one together and show them, okay, if it works now what do you have to debunk, Mm-hmm. But if you go through and you're very detailed and you stay, keep your controls. A lot of people, there's plenty of people that just, everybody wants to say that they caught paranormal activity, and that's not honestly the case. And then people say, well, you can't tell them they didn't because then you're going to hurt their feelings. If you're going to get into the field, you have to decide, why are you in the field? Are you just doing it for the fun? And hey, that's cool. If you're just for the fun and that's all you're going to do it, just be honest with whoever. Because then when you get somebody who says, hey, can you come check my house out? If you don't know what you're doing, you shouldn't be just all of a sudden trying. And then when people are calling, a lot of people are calling for help. Before, when I originally got into it, it was all documentation. Somebody wanted to make sure they weren't losing their mind. They know what they're experiencing. They know things are happening. So we're trying to document something for them. And at the time, we weren't treating the location. We would say, okay, and it wasn't, generally wasn't bad. And we just go ahead and document it, give them something, put on the coffee table when they talk to their friends and go, look, listen to this. You tell me how we got this. Or if they could watch something happen, we say, hey, knock a flashlight off, and the flashlight just happens to fall off at the same time within 20 seconds of you saying it, you start putting together things for them. But that's really cool. But then when you get to a higher level and you are able to, this is one of the only fields that you're going to find where people are giving up their time, their energy, and their effort most of the time for free. When we go, we don't charge for anything, and we help people, as Ken was saying, around the world. I mean, there's no limits to it. Doesn't matter what your background is. Doesn't matter where you come from, what language you speak, religion, none of it matters. Like for me, when I treat a location, if the clients are Muslim, they're like, look, is this going to be a problem? I do it my way. They keep everything how they want to keep it. That's fine. As long as they're okay with it, I'm not going to offend them. It is a conversation that has to be had, but they don't have to believe in what I'm doing it. I'm going to go ahead and deal with this, and we're going to take care of it and get it there. But as long as you have that up front, I've never run into somebody yet now that has any issue. At that point, again, they don't care where anybody comes from or what language they speak or anything about them. And I think that's a fantastic part of this field. Robin, if you're helping people and people are going to be naysayers, big deal. Being professional as far as how you present yourself to clients, that's where it's at. And if you're respectful to, even if you haven't caught anything yet, but you in your mind are respectful that what if that was your mom on the other side? How would you treat them? And that's really a way we go at it. We want to have that type of respect. We capture a lot of evidence, and I honestly believe most of it's because of the respect.
Yeah. Personal integrity is the big thing as well. Personal integrity. Yes. As long as you know in your heart that you're doing it for the right reasons, you know what? It doesn't matter what other people say. I just blow them off. No biggie.
Right. And the one thing I suggest is if you're in this for the right reasons to help people and not just in it for the fun or, the weekend ghost hunters that go out just searching for the thrill. I tell people, because I've been in this field for over 30 years, between researching historical locations and researching different methods on how to conduct paranormal research, is you got to kind of treat it like a job. Would you go to a job and be rude to the customers? Would you go to the job and not do your research on something like, let's say you had to research a product that you're selling? You wouldn't, just kind of blow it off and treat it like it's something fun. So if you treat the paranormal field like a job, do your research, conduct yourself professionally, people are going to notice that. And that just kind of gets rid of the naysayers because they realize that this is something real. This isn't something that you're doing for fun. And it also shows your clients, or any, like, let's say you just do locations. It shows the location owners or managers that you're there to respect the property and help them out versus just go and, kind of goof off and have fun.
Yeah, like my pastor knows that I'm a paranormal investigator. We'll talk. It's like, yeah, you hunting ghosts? I go, no, not today, pastor. But it's all about how you present yourself, and I think that's the biggest thing is how you present yourself in this field and how you disseminate the information. If you do it with honesty and integrity, I mean, you'll be fine. And I think once you start doing that, and as a whole community and whole, we start doing that, people will start having much more respect for what we do.
Absolutely.
It looks like we have a lot of questions. So Rudy had asked, have you ever revisited a location to a spirit you built a friendship with? I know I have a story with that, but I'll let you guys go first.
So for me, no. I have not built a friendship with the spirit yet. Unfortunately, I am not a psychic. I don't have any abilities. I do have some empath, being an empath a little bit, but honestly, no. Generally, the cases that I handle are darker cases. Like I said, as I mentioned, I work with the Warren Legacy Foundation for Paranormal Research. Most of our cases that we do are darker, demonic cases, and it takes a lot of time and research. And so, no, I haven't. And I'm hoping not to build a friendship with a demon.
Oh man, I wish I had you at the Temple King, because we had one there that we could. It was low level, and we tormented that thing too bad. Unfortunately, it sounds bad, but it was actually quite fun. I have the little boy, Jeremiah, the little 5-year-old I was talking about, and with the flashlights, and we've gone to that house a number of times, and every time it was the same thing. He would not do anything for anyone unless, if I would say, okay, do it for Miss blah blah blah, she's the homeowner, she's letting you stay in her house, he'd start doing it on cue. But if tell him to stop, he'd stop in a heartbeat. Nobody'd get anything out of him. And some of my poor team members, I mean, they get frustrated. Freddie was on asking one of the first questions. He can remember as well. I mean, it's one of our other team members that he would just get to a point where he'd just throw the lights down because he'd be so frustrated because it wouldn't be anything. And then he goes down and watches out of control, and the lights are going on every time you say, hey, do this. So, yeah, you said you had, Heather?
Yeah, for mine, we went to a location. We have to keep it undisclosed because we promised them we wouldn't tell them where it was. But we actually hosted our team meetings there quite often, and we did trainings there. And we would go, we tried to go every month, but it was more realistic, like every other month. And the first time I went to this location, we kept getting my name over the spirit box as well as EVPs. So like they would say, if you want us to leave, say one of our team members' names. And we never introduced ourselves on that investigation. And all of a sudden my name was coming over the spirit box and then on the EVP recorder when I got home. And then the next time we went, there was a dark entity. I mean, I didn't feel threatened. But he was following me around. Every room I went to, I could see him lurking in the corner, and he was just always there. Then one night, I guess this goes towards one of the scariest cases I was on too. One day we went and did an investigation, and something just didn't feel right. The energy in the place was just off. Everything was darker, and we were getting some really strange evidence, something that we've never had before at this location. And when I came home, went to bed, about 2 or 3 in the morning, I was woken up and to someone telling me, don't ever go back to the museum. And there was the entity that I had seen at the museum standing in front of my bed. And I could tell that it was something solid because the TV, you could see the silhouette of a person and the TV was on. And then he faded away and disappeared. And then we still went a couple more times. Nothing had happened again. Everything felt right again. And then when COVID hit, we stopped going. Well, he came to my house to check on me. He was standing in the kitchen one day, just standing there, making sure I was okay, is how it felt. And then he was gone. So I feel that I had a unknowingly friendship with this ghost because he was just always there and always following me around.
Have you ever gotten warnings, whether it was EVPs or ITC? Have you ever gotten warnings about something coming, something bad being at a location?
Yes. Yeah, we've had it several times, especially at that residence. We had EVPs of get out. And then it was like 2 different male voices and a female voice. And we had asked a question about the daughter. Did the daughter do this? I think it was, did the daughter hide a specific tarot card somewhere in the house? And the female voice was like, yes. And then the male voice was like, no. And then when we were at that location for our meeting, the night that it was kind of off, we had a lot of FUs.
Yep.
And get the F out. So it was kind of interesting. I've never had anything like that before at a location.
That sounds like one we had trying to figure out what it was, what type of entity it was. We're kind of thinking it was darker, but like Robert mentioned, sometimes you deal with a lot of these lower level demons. And so one of them was like, what's your name? And the EVP says Baphomet. We're like, yeah, okay, buddy. And not today. All right. So we kind of pissed it off and we prayed and blessed the house, and they didn't have any more issues at all. So and that's kind of funny though, because you'll get these entities, they'll try to scare you, you know what I mean? They'll manipulate the device and you're like, okay, all right. So Baphomet. I mean, I know I shouldn't be laughing, but when you think about it now and you realize that you've been in this field for quite a bit some time, you kind of see the tricks that some of these entities played. And not all of them are bad. Some of them are just, people who need help crossing over. Yep. But at least from my experience, the darker ones, they try to project themselves to be something more than they're not. I'm like, oh, you're just a foot soldier, so we'll get rid of you. And they don't like that, so they'll try to make themselves worse.
Okay. Have you had to deal with an entity that required multiple visits to get rid of, as well as an entity that could not be dealt with? For me, that would be the residential I talked about earlier. We went twice to that location, but other than that, I've never had anything that couldn't be dealt with. So you guys might have better stories than I do.
I know, Kenneth. I know this question is directed towards me. Okay. Okay, Kenneth. All right, I got you, buddy. I'll message you later. So yes. We have a current investigation that's been active since last year. One of our clients out here in the Bay Area, they have suffered, they've been a victim of a UFO abduction. So this happened about 14, 15 years ago. And so since they've been a victim of a UFO abduction, many things have happened. She has provided evidence that someone broke into their medical laboratory and took the sample. They were supposed to get a surgery. They were supposed to get a calcified piece of rice removed from their neck, but when the doctors went in, it wasn't there. But then a few hours later, it showed back again, even contacting MUFON. So with that being said, fast forward 15 years, we're still dealing with a lot of things that are going on because now there is this theory that being a star seed, being a star child, if you are abducted by aliens, it is a gateway to the sense of now your senses are heightened. So, whether it be psychic or medium. And that's actually, I'm studying that right now. The correlation between UFO abduction and psychic abilities, and they seem to go line in line. So, but yes, Kenneth, we are dealing with something that is always ever changing. 1 minute, it's just a regular EVP. The second, it's just a child. Then all of a sudden, it turns out to be adult. And then, so it's multiple things that are going on. And, with that being said, the reason I think this is happening is because this client is now open. And so we forwarded this client to a group on Facebook to try to get some help. And they've been reaching out and a lot of good advice has been coming in. And so, yes, Kenneth, we are dealing with the case that's currently active. Like I said, it's changing every day. It goes from UFOs and it goes to demons and, it goes to other things. No poltergeist yet. It even goes to the fact where the client, she had her bed on the room facing the electrical room of the apartment complex. So when we lit that bad boy up with the EMF detector and the thermal, that wall was blazing red. And we're like, wow. So we know the theory that, if you are exposed to high amounts of electromagnetic energy, there are going to be different effects, hallucinations, always being watched. And especially if you're a psychic, I think when you're a psychic and you have abilities and that you're still learning about them, that's going to intensify that more. So yes, long story short.
And then here's another question for Kenneth. How is Annabelle?
Annabelle's fine. She's on my chest. She's on my chest right now.
Okay, here's another question. When a spirit crosses over, where is over and can they come back? Or once a spirit crosses over, I assume to heaven, that it is you no longer can talk to them. Which do you think it is?
Heather, I feel like you probably have a better understanding of this question.
I do, and I'm just trying to think of a way to word it. Personally, I'm a firm believer in everything back to what you believe in. So if you believe that a spirit can cross over, go to heaven, or they stay around, that's what happens, as long as that person believes that too. I mean, I've had experiences with my grandfather since I was 17, and he would come to me, and he even came to me when I was almost thinking my life was over because I was diagnosed with kidney disease, late stage kidney disease a few years ago. And it was just comforting to know that he could come back. Where he went, I don't know. I'm assuming because of his beliefs, he went to heaven and can come back. And it's kind of hard because I believe that if they are stuck here, it's because they have unfinished business, not so much because they can't cross over. It's they have something that they need to take care of, even if they don't know it's something they need to take care of. So I truly believe that once we help them get that clarity and finalization to what they're trying to accomplish, they are able to find peace. And even if they don't so much as the word crossover, I guess they just kind of go on and enjoy their afterlife. And I always found it weird because my grandfather and my uncle have both come to me, but yet my grandmother, who I was close to, hasn't. So maybe it could be one of those things where she's somewhere she can't come back, or she hasn't learned how to come back. So it's all in a matter of the spirit, what they need to take care of, and actually I personally believe it's where they feel comfortable. A lot of spirits still feel comfortable here on Earth. And I hope that answered it because I feel like I babbled.
No, that was well said. We have earthbound spirits. I have a case in New Jersey where it was unfinished business. The husband tragically died. And he didn't have closure with his daughters and the wife. And like I said, I generally deal with darker cases, and this wasn't the best relationship between the husband and the wife and the family. There was a lot of alcohol abuse and womanizing and all that stuff. And I'm no one to judge, but when his spirit crossed over, it was abrupt. They weren't ready. And so we were dealing with the fact that we had a husband that didn't want to cross over. And so I've got hours of footage, and there's voices on the security cameras like saying I miss you or I love you, and and so eventually we had one of our psychic mediums reach out, and we're like, hey, look, do this. This is what needs to be done. And so we had the wife talk to the husband, say, hey, look, whatever you're going through, I forgive you, I love you, everything's taken care of. Please feel free to cross over. And ever since then, the husband appears to have crossed over, and there are no more issues. And like Michelle said, I feel it is what is in your heart of hearts. I think that once a person crosses over, they may have the ability to come back, maybe just like check in on you. But I would say, why though? I mean, if you're in a peaceful place, just let them be in peace. And correct, not all bad energy are demons as well. There was a comment as well that said that. So, we have people that are just bad, and when they go, they're not ready, and so they're going to stir the pot.
I definitely believe in spirits can be transitional. They can come and go. You get a lot of phantom smells. People get it repetitive, and it just, again, it's not like every day. It just happens from time to time. And we're not talking about, if a location has, depending on what it's made out of course, you could have that residual smell that's trapped inside, and then the humidity changes. You could have smoke or something else come out. But perfume from a person, a loved one that was never there. In the darker cases, I know in my personal experience with the darker cases, there's typically very positive energies there. There's typically family members that are on the other side that are actually, Ken, how many times have you had where somebody says, look, I've called so many people and nobody will answer their phone. You're the first one to answer the phone. And it has to be the right person that can help out.
Yeah, it happens. It happens all the time.
Absolutely happens. So I do believe there's quite often, and that's my that's what I push, is the fact that it doesn't matter how dark something seems. the reason why all of a sudden we're put into your path is because something's made that happen. It's you have probably 40,000 teams out there to choose from, and you just happen to call one that can actually help you rather than the majority of them that can't, unfortunately.
Yeah,
so it just
very
seems to
true.
play out that way.
Okay. If you find a portal, will you go in it?
Well, well,
they're not like drive-throughs, okay?
Is it like a Stargate portal? You know what I mean? SG3. But no, in all seriousness,
don't take offense. We're just playing around with it because
we're playing around. People
really don't know when we're talking portals. We're talking about an energy area where energies can pass back and forth through. Is typically when we're talking about portals. It's not like a major size wall or a building and we can see it. Most of us without abilities have no idea they're even there. It's usually somebody with abilities that have a better sense.
Yeah.
Heather, what do you say?
Yeah, no, I wouldn't go in one personally, just because of I guess the one part that I'm afraid of is what if I can't come back? If I go in it, I don't want to be stuck somewhere else that I'm unsure of. But I have encountered, it was actually the house we investigated with the all the craziness, and there was a in portal in her bedroom, and it was more or less because I could sense it and I could see it. And it almost looked like the room was staticky, and it was like TV static in the center of a room just kind of swirling around is how I saw it. And you could tell that it was an in portal because most of our activity was happening there. And then we could tell that there was an exit portal over by the bathroom tub, which is where the other activity happened as well, where I was attacked. So, but going in it, I'll stay here personally.
Yeah, I don't fully understand how portals work, and generally speaking, I'll stay away from it. You know, luckily we have a psychic on our team, and so they'll help us understand. But yeah, I can't see it, so honestly, you know, I wouldn't go in. But if it was a Stargate portal, maybe.
Yeah, I know at our grocery store here, there's a girl that I always talk to about the paranormal, and she's so excited that she can talk to me because everyone thinks she's crazy. And she had said to me, she's like, I think there's a portal over by where the Starbucks is. And when I went over there and I got closer, I was like, holy crap, there is. Because it looked the same way, and you could tell like static on my arms was sticking up, you know, my arm hairs were sticking up. It was really weird.
We have a team medium, and of course, she sees things that I cannot see, but she was talking about where a very dark mist was coming out of a doorway. I'm the type that's going to go, I want to check it out. So I walked into the doorway. There's still plenty of ambient light going into the doorway. She's only probably 12, 14 feet away. She goes, where'd you go? I'm like, I'm standing right here in the doorway, looking right at you, blah, blah, blah. She goes, no, seriously, where are you at? I'm like, I'm right in front of you. I'm thinking she's playing a game. Her stepdaughter walks up and goes, where's Rob? I hear him talking. They cannot see me from 12 feet away, standing in the middle of a doorway, you know, trying to get their attention. Whatever that blackness was just prevented it. But I'm into checking that out. I like to go to, you know, again, I don't sense it, so I don't feel it. I can't, but I want to see if one day I can. That's my, I like the idea of trying to experience something. Not the smartest thing to do, by all means. I'm not saying that.
Well, I mean, I think that just goes with what we want to know. It's like experiencing things.
Yes.
Okay. Why do spirits ask for help, and how can we help them? I've actually had one experience where the spirit was asking us for help in the aspect that she was being held there.
Yep.
Almost like she was captive, and the other spirit, all the EVPs we put together, just kind of told us that she was basically stuck and couldn't get out. And then the other reason why they ask for help is because they need help reaching, like say someone is stuck to a home and then their family moves. They need help reaching out to that family because they're for some reason stuck at that location and they can't get to their family. Those are the two instances that I've had where spirits have asked for help. And you guys have anything?
Yeah. Robert, do you want to go?
Yeah, actually, because I want to go back to what Philip was talking about, Sadie. Mm-hmm. So I was working with, again, from time to time, Philip would text me about different information he was picking up. He'd have things down there, but he would just know if they were for me. I don't know how that works, you know, with people with abilities. It just absolutely blows my mind, but amazes me at the same time. And he kept picking up this woman, Sadie, and then at one point, I'm going up to an area that we're about to invest. Well, my investigation got canceled, so I'm going to the next town over, trying to find somewhere. We had already talked about going live. We got it all planned out, the whole 9 yards. So I'm trying to find a location. He hits me up right when I'm going that way, and he's going, "Hey, are you going to go to a cemetery? Are you investigating a cemetery today?" I'm like, "No, my investigation got canceled, so now I'm trying to find something." Ultimately, I end up investigating a cemetery. But before that happens, when I first get to the cemetery, he hits me up and just suddenly was like, "Look, Sadie needs help. The problem is she has no headstone and nobody knows where to find her at." I'm looking at, all this dirt, and there's a few rocks here and there. And then he started saying it's barren. There's no grass. And there is a rock there, that's in the ground. And I'm like, it could be any. He's like, just take pictures. As soon as I start taking the pictures, start sending him a couple, it comes over him, hits him in a rush. I mean, just overwhelming. And he's like, "No, that's it, right there, right there." Then she wanted help, talking about why wanted help. Her daughters were actually there too, but they were being held back. So end up doing a crossing. I'm just going a little bit faster, but end up doing a crossing of the daughters as well as Sadie herself. Philip says, "Look, can you do me a favor? Can you just find a small rock and just put it over there, if you would?" And so I did bring a Sharpie so that I could go ahead, because he asked me to do that. Eventually, when you actually look at the rock itself, it's actually shaped in the shape of Georgia. When you look at how flat it is on one side and the way it goes through, it looks like the shape of Georgia. Just happened to be a rock that I found in the dark. I just sat there and put up a nice, good chunk of stone and wrote across as far as Sadie and put some things on there. Philip is from Georgia. It was just ironic that it has the shape of Georgia for the rock itself. And then anytime going back up there, we've never hit Sadie again. Another person that was involved in the same thing was picking up on a particular word, and what it was the cemetery. He was picking up St. Agnes. So I'm taking pictures inside the cemetery, and they're like, "Oh, okay." And they start talking to each other on text, and they know what they're talking about. I'm like, "Well, what are you talking about, the St. Agnes?" I happened to catch a placard, and at the bottom of it, the area was taken care of by St. Agnes Church. So one guy's getting St. Agnes, and it's been bugging him for a month. Philip's been working with Sadie. It all comes together.
Hey, Jamie, how are you? Okay, so for everyone that doesn't know, actually, Jamie is one of my clients. She is the one that we're currently working with. And so we're plugging her in the right direction. And I'm glad you're here, Jamie, because you get to ask these questions and you get all this feedback. I think spirits ask for help because most of the time they may be afraid, they may be in shock. A lot of times they may not know that they're crossed over, that they're deceased or why they're deceased. And so I think the way we can help them out is just be respectful, try to be in tune with them and see if we can help them cross over. But I think that is if, you do have some good psychic abilities. My understanding is that these types of things can be overwhelming. And so I believe if you're psychic and you have these issues going on and you're not fully grasping what's going on as well as a psychic, you're not in tune with your abilities to the fullest, it can be overwhelming. So how we can help them, as I mentioned, how we can help them is just be respectful and try to help them cross over. But more importantly, take care of yourself first. You always want to take care of yourself. You want to make sure that you're well protected. That's the only way I think you can help them out. If you're not cool, calm, and collective and don't have a full grasp or understanding or are just overwhelmed with everything that's going on, I would say just maybe take a step back and reconvene and just reach out. And that's what we're here for.
That's a good point, Ken, that everybody's not really up to that speed of being able to do that. And it's okay. If you're not, reach out because there's other people that can. I mean, we have other teams that will reach out to us and we love sharing anything. And I think I have mad respect for anybody that says, look, this is outside of our capabilities. Things are a little bit crazy at this house. Can you come help out? Fantastic. And we all learn. We're always continuing to learn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's actually how I got connected with the Warren Foundation for Paranormal Research. We had a case and we weren't sure where to go with it, and I reached out to Chris, and then all of a sudden I ended up finding a whole new group of people to work with.
Yeah, it's amazing, and we ended up meeting each other, and I'm thankful, Heather, for having me on your show as well.
Oh,
And
well,
it's great
thank you
meeting you too,
again.
Robert.
If I didn't say already, guys, thank you for joining us. But we still have plenty of time and lots of questions. I'm scrolling through here.
Oh,
Brenda wants to know, does vibration need to be the same? If I'm interpreting this question correctly, I personally believe that in order to see spirits, like we all see different things, we all experience different things. And I think it depends on your actual vibration levels yourself. If you're on the same wavelength as some of these spirits, you're going to see them. You're going to be able to interact with them. And, that all comes with practice, meditation, relaxation, focus, and being open-minded. And I personally, over the last year, I've opened myself up to so much more just by changing. Vibration can be changed through, like I said, meditation, crystals, and a whole bunch of other practices. And I hope that answered the question. If not, if you guys think I was totally off track, give your input.
well, I think that's a great answer because honestly, I don't know anything about vibrations. To me, that seems like maybe it's someone that's specializing in Reiki and that other stuff. So yeah, I have no input. It sounded good.
Think of it, it's vibration, energy, frequency. Again, there's a lot of communication that goes on night. And a lot of times when our minds are calmer at night, and there's people that will actually get a lot of messages during the nighttime because they are slowing down enough as far as their mind. They're not listening to me talk. They don't have the lights in their eyes or anything, but their mind, their brain waves actually slow down, and it's easier for somebody on the other side to catch up on the same level. And that happens quite often. So that's the only little tidbit I have towards your vibration. Good question.
Okay, is seeing a blue light part of spirit activity?
That's kind of an open, there's not enough detail for it for us,
Right.
most of us as investigators, because we're trying to rule things out also. So can you get a blue flash? Now, are we talking a light that stays solid for a while? Or are we talking kind of like a spark or a flash? Because we know those can actually occur in nature regardless. Static electricity, for instance. I'm just throwing it out there.
Or
right.
are we?
Yeah, you have to
thinking
rule
about
out
like a
natural
spiritual
causes.
thing? Yeah, or are we talking about like a spiritual blue light, so to speak, a flash of blue light? Yeah, it's kind of hard to answer that question. We kind of have to see, what the environment consists of its equipment, but more than likely, from my experience, it's probably thunder and lightning from the outside. It does have that effect.
Okay. And Robin says she has a touch lamp in her spare bedroom that comes on all by itself once in a while. It'll come on if I ask. There is no way it's not paranormal. This happens about 3 or 4 times a year. Should I be concerned?
Robin, can you send us some videos and pictures of that? That'd be really great to see. And no, I don't think there's anything you should worry about. I think you are having what you call an intelligence. An intelligent reaction, interaction with the being. So, I mean, that's like an intelligent haunting, I would say. Unless things are weird around the house, but I don't think there's anything to be worried about. And fear is the number one thing, that we kind of have to dispel in this field. Energy feeds off of fear. You know what I mean? Negative energy feeds off of fear. So if you're afraid, then chances are you're going to kind of get, some bad stuff happening, but don't be afraid. Don't be afraid at all.
Yeah, no, but even in another step, just to really, I'm not discounting, Robin, what you're saying as far as with the lamp itself, but plug it in another room also so that it's on a different circuit. It's just steps we take as investigators. And if you can record that, as Ken was saying, if you could videotape that a couple of different times, a couple of different areas, that would be fantastic.
And try to replicate, I was going to say, just try to replicate that in different rooms. See if that comes up, right?
Yeah. And in addition to trying different plugs, have the light checked out by an electrician. Make sure there's no loose wires inside. Because my son has a lamp that turns on and off. And it's one of those things where we realized it got knocked over and now it doesn't work at all. So just kind of have that. That's just my, debunking first train of thought. I'm not saying that it's not paranormal. Chances are it could be. And also consider how you feel in the room. Do you feel uncomfortable? If you feel uncomfortable, then there's a need to be concerned. But if it's a comfortable room, you don't feel threatened, then I really don't think there's a concern there. But you can't diagnose that without actually investigating your room.
I'd like to take it another step further as well. If you're talking about those old school lamps like my grandmother used to have, I know a lot of times they are older and they go off of static energy. There is also a possibility that the sensors inside of there can be old. And so just the actual sound of your voice releasing that tone can make it go off. I mean, we're not discounting what you're saying, but try those little things as well. I do know that with those touch lamps, those old, if it's an older one, if I'm thinking of, that can be a thing. The actual vibration from your voice, the static energy making it go off.
Oops.
Heather, do we have time to
scrolled.
go over any more of the stories?
Yeah, if you guys, I actually lost comments. It scrolled all the way to the bottom, so I got to go back to see where we're at. So if you guys want to share a story real quick while I try to find where we're at.
I've got one that's going to be, it's pretty quick, but I do want to share this one because it's extremely interesting when we're dealing with people. Fortunately, with technology, we have FaceTime, so we can actually see clients, potential clients, whatnot. And Ken, you can attest to that as far as when you get somebody talking to you over the phone, you know, we're always trying to weigh. We're not discounting everything, but there's certain things, indicators we have to try to figure out what's going on with the case itself. There's key words, there's key actions, just different things that we're aware is from one type of energy to a different type of energy. And I had this young woman, and she kept talking about, you know, these footprints on her ceiling, just different weird things happening. But with herself, she would talk about how her stomach would get really tight and would move. And I'm like, you know, pretty much anybody can kind of blow up their stomach a little bit as far as if you kind of put pressure on it, because she'd be standing. We got to a point where she's doing FaceTime. She's going, no, look, I can, you know, look at how it's doing it now. And it wasn't too dramatic at first. At first over the phone, like I said, it was kind of questionable. Got to a point where we're FaceTiming, and it goes to a lot more extreme. And I purposely show back up just a little bit. It's one thing for somebody to tighten up their stomach or anything, but if you actually see a physical movement come up above their rib cage, it's a pretty good indication there's something, and I can see the whole body at this point. It got to a point where there was nothing between myself and her skin as far as visually being able to see, and you could actually watch, it wasn't a shirt, you could actually watch her skin move up above, which is pretty bizarre in nature to watch by far. I thought it was cool. Then we could turn around, and in the middle of talking, typically I would throw out a Latin phrase, you know, destroy all evil, or, you know, something like that. If I say it in Latin, normally somebody's going to go, excuse me, because they wouldn't understand. Instead, her eyes would get huge. Tears would immediately roll down. She would be holding her breath and pass right out. It happened 3 different times. I mean, it wasn't great for her experience, but it's pretty interesting to sit there and watch. So I ended up driving down to this location to go ahead and help her. And I asked her to pick out a type of location where I'm looking for that's away from everybody. You don't really want to do all this with all the eyes around you. You don't want to remove something out of high school or something. You know, we're not trying to leave something bad around, hanging around, something like that. I wasn't familiar with the area. It was 4 hours away. She ended up picking a school, so I had to drive to another place. Well, there was a skate park on one side, some woods on the other side. So I ended up taking my kit, and we go in there. Wonderful. I'm walking into the woods with this woman. She doesn't know me besides the conversations we've had on the phone. We get in there, and part of the process, as far as putting salt circle around, there's a couple different processes, prayer. I always have a crucifix, about an 8-inch crucifix in my back pocket when I'm doing this, and I'm at the person's shoulder. I'm usually from the side of them. So if something is negative that's inside of a person, now it's using the person's eyes to see. It's kind of it loses some of its awareness that's around, and they get very defensive at that point. The ironic part is, if I turn around, just pretend my comb is the crucifix, I've got it in my hand, I'm doing whatever, and again, I'm on her back side. Every time I would touch her with the crucifix, as far as just put my hand against her, this inhuman scream, she'd go up, and just this crazy blast of screaming would happen. And at first it was, you know, the shell shock of, oh my God, that was so loud. But it got to a point where you got to kind of see how it works and how long it works for. It was like an experiment going, a pretty wild experiment. That was actually the scaredest I ever got, because now I realize I've got this woman who is absolutely screaming for no real reason it should be, unless there's something going on. Every time I touch her, And then it finally dawns on me, this is a woman screaming. To me, it doesn't even sound like human screams, but I'm thinking I've got red dots all over me. At any time, the cops are going to light me up because they're going to hear this woman in here, and here's a guy standing next to her. I'm thinking I'm about to get shot by these cops. Fortunately, after it was all done and over with and some other weird things happened, after that day, she's never had the movement or anything like that. But there are things that will completely blow your mind that you're not really ready for. Again, you're going by your past history, your previous experiences. And then when you see something different like that, to me, I thought it was cool, but not most people are going to think that's too neat.
Yeah. No, I mean, that is cool. That's also, what you're doing here, Robert, too, for a lot of people that don't know as well. It's called demonic profiling. He's pretty much sizing up the environment. And so you have these trigger objects, these religious objects. A lot of times what ends up happening is, for example, a case that, we're currently working on is we had the young girl tried to grab the crucifix on camera, and it didn't work out. It was screaming. She was screaming. She was yelling. Her voice started changing. But it wasn't hurting her physically. It was hurting the actual spiritual being itself. We even had a situation where on camera, we had our priest go out there, who was out there, and cup of water. It's a cup of water. So the secret is, one of them has holy water and the other is regular water. So the little girl was like, "Get this water away from me." She used foul language at 7 years old. And it turned out it was the water that had the holy water inside of it. So, yeah, I mean, it's interesting, but this is how we're going to learn as well. But disclosures, don't go out just showing crucifixes on people. And, Robert's experience, I want to say, Robert, I've seen your work before on TV, and I'm very humbled to be sharing the screen with you as well.
Vice versa. Again, just always willing to learn. So I love being around people again, I'm still picking up from everybody around me, all my peers in the field. And I think that's really, really important for us.
Yeah. My gosh. Okay. So I do have a story, but I just had a brain fart. Oh my gosh.
Well, while you think of it real quick, we did have some advice regarding the lamp. I believe it was Philip, because it came up as Ghost Education 101. He had said to check the serial number on the lamp and Google it to see if anyone else has had similar experiences with the lamp. And then Bob suggested to run an EMF meter around it and check it.
Yeah. Well, chances are in an EMF meter, you're probably going to get something because it is electromagnetic energy. But the good thing about that is that it will give you a base reading of how high and how low it is. So if you have a high EMF reading, then chances are that maybe that lamp is not in good condition. Mm-hmm. Because generally speaking, there's a certain amount of energy that you get through certain objects. You can put an EMF detector next to a fridge or certain objects, and you can always get a base reading. And so that's what's great about technology, these types of tools as well. They help you out. Once again, we're not discrediting you, just trying to help you point out the obvious and try to, find a resolution. And also, please record and send to us.
Mm-hmm. Yes, definitely. So do you remember your story?
I don't remember the other story, but I do have one. Growing up in East Coast, I was born in New York and raised in New Jersey. And so I grew up in a place called Paterson, which is the original Silk City, the Great Falls. That's where Alexander Hamilton established the city of Paterson. And so that area is known to have a lot of paranormal activity because of the natural waterfalls that are in the town. The actual waterfalls, they run the whole city electric system. And so we lived in a place in Paterson. I went to John F. Kennedy High School my freshman year. And so John F. Kennedy High School in that part of New Jersey, it's all by the river. And so that area is all Native American land. So we moved into this place. And sure enough, as soon as we move into this place, we start seeing things happening, and there weren't good things. I'm going to condense the story because it's my family's personal story, and so I'm just going to condense it. And so, without going into too much detail, there were times when my dad and I and my little sister were outside, and we would look up and we would see a little girl looking out the window, and so we're like, "Oh, wow, pretty interesting." At that time, my dad had us accustomed to horror movies, He actually locked me in at 7 years old, and I watched The Exorcist alone. Thanks for that. So we were accustomed. I already had paranormal experiences growing up from that. So anyway, this happened, first incident. Here's another part of it. So one day, my dad and my little sister and I, we are watching TV. All right, so we're watching TV. This is the living room. The TV's right there. Then there's the door to the kitchen. And so we're actually watching Stephen King's It at that time. And so we look and we see my little sister walk across the kitchen. And we're like, sis, come over here. You're not supposed to be over there. And she goes, I'm right here. She literally was sitting in front of us. Okay. So we're like, wow, that's crazy. So we go look. And as soon as you walk into the house, there's a kitchen and a washer and dryer. We go in. My dad's Catholic. And so we go in and we knew we had a problem because at that time I didn't really put two and two together, but the candle was broken and there was a crucifix stuck in there upside down. And so that's when we knew that we had an issue. But it got worse because it started attacking my sister. It would come out from under the bed at night, a girl in a purple dress. It would tell my little sister, you need to hurt your family, And, she was maybe 4 or 5 years old. And, she would have these different experiences. She would be screaming, yelling at night. Anyway, push comes to shove. Make the long story short, we had our priest, go in and bless the house, and the activity was gone. But ultimately, at the end of the day, what ended up happening is we found a little spot in the crawl space, and it was a box. And disclosure, this is going to be graphic for some of y'all, but I need some of you to realize that when you play with the occult and the paranormal, bad things can happen. The people that used to live there were child pedophile molesters. And so they had pictures of naked children in underwear. Contacted the police department. The police department came in. That was kind of part of the evidence. They arrested the people. The neighbors downstairs, coincidentally, were practicing satanic rituals as well. So we don't think they knew each other, but what we think is the activity that was going on intensified the activity upstairs. And so there was a connection between both. And so, yeah, that's my story. We prayed for the house. There was a big yell, scream, sigh of relief. Up until this day, my little sister doesn't remember anything. And so, yeah, I mean, there's some dark stuff. And I want to emphasize to people, whatever you believe in, whatever you practice, that's fine. I'm not knocking it. If you practice Wicca, if you practice different occult religions, whatever, I'm not knocking it. That's not my cup of tea. But just please be careful when you do these things. And that actually led me to this story that I remember now. It's a possession case in France. And the way that ties in is that this young lady is a tattoo artist, and she focuses on dark arts. And so all her work is dark. And so she came under oppression. You see this girl on video. She's 5'1", 120 pounds. Her brother is like 6'5", Norse Viking, 280 pounds. She pushes him off. He's trying to hold her down, and she pushes him off, and he literally flies across the room. And so these are the cases that, we see with every day. And the common connection to that is people dabble with things that they don't understand. And so if you don't understand how these things work, please don't mess with it. I caution everybody, and I'm probably going to get some slack for it. Don't mess with the Ouija board. Simple as that. Don't mess with it. Don't mess. I don't care who you are. You know what I mean? And I say this in a respectful way. If you know what you're doing, okay, that's fine. Go mess with it if you want to. But my recommendation from my experience is don't mess with the Ouija board because you don't know what you're going to open. A lot of people don't have a lot of abilities, and this is not some fun stuff that you can, see on TV. Bad things happen. People have died because of spirit oppression and demonic possession. So just please be careful when you mess with these things.
Ken, have we ever talked?
No, sir. I don't think we have, but let's connect after
the
this.
same absolute belief about the Ouija board, and it's because we've done so many cases. The majority of the cases comes right back to that being involved. Yeah. It's amazing.
Well, and it's all about education. That's what we do with the Warren Legacy Foundation. We carry on the work of Etta Lorraine Warren through their grandson, Chris McKinnell. And, we're a unilateral organization, and we have witches and mediums, and we work with everybody. But the common thing that we do have is the commonality among the cases are people messing with things that they don't understand. And then when stuff hits the fan, now we have to go in, and we don't mind. We'll help you out. But if we're going to give you a recommendation, please follow it. Unfortunately, this other client from another case didn't follow the recommendation and fell under possession again. And that is my story. Sorry for dragging it out. I came ready for 2 hours tonight. I'm ready for 2 hours, 3 hours.
Well, and we were supposed to have 7 people on, but due to emergencies and last minute things, it's just the 3 of us. So I'm glad we didn't have all 7 people, because I don't think we'd get through all the stories.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's no question. So I'm just going to share one. It's not really a scary story, I guess you would say, but it was another eye opener to some of the abilities that I have. Is we were invited up to investigate a mine up in Goldfield, and we're the first team ever that was allowed in. So another investigator and I headed up there, and we were in the first of all, we were in the hoist room, and I could hear voices and people walking around like they were almost having a business conversation, telling people what to do in the other room. And when we walked over there was nobody outside. Then the next morning, we actually went into a mine shaft that had collapsed, and during the collapse, miners were trapped in it. And this mine, as well as those who know the Goldfield history, there's several fires that affected it. The mine was also affected by a fire and flash floods over the years. And when we were in this mine shaft, you had to actually step up to go to the collapsed area. And I was like, you know what? Something's calling me over there to go in there. So I went in there, and it felt like I was there for hours. But in reality, I think I was there for less than 5 minutes. But it just felt like I was being crushed. I started crying. I couldn't breathe. And it was just, I didn't know what was happening. It literally felt like I was in the collapse of the mine. And then when they got me out of there, 2 feet away from the collapse section, perfectly fine. Like nothing was wrong with me. And they were like, we were talking about it. Like I said, I felt like I was there for hours, but they said it was like 5 minutes that I was in there and away from the rest of the team. So that was kind of like, wow, what was really happening? I was picking up on how the miners had felt. Then we were camping out. They invited us to stay the night. So we were in the actual mine owner's home, and his kids were sleeping in the dining room. The investigator and I were sleeping in the living room, and sound asleep again, 3:00 in the morning, where it usually always happens. I was woken up to someone screaming in my ear. I didn't start the fire. Sat up, looked around, kids in the dining room, sound asleep. The other investigator, sound asleep, snoring away. And it was like, okay, who said that? That was the scary part, because that was a shocker, because that like woke me out of a dead sleep.
So I have a question for the both of you, and I don't know if it's just me, but I find that having been in this field, right, there's just certain times now that you're kind of more open to things. So like I'm watching TV in the house, and then I'll have static sensors around the house just to see like they'll go off, or there'll be a knock, or like, for example, we were watching a movie the other night, my friend and I, and all of a sudden just the power went out. And then every time we got back to that scene of the scary movie, the power kept on going out. So do any of you ever experience rare occurrences? Because it tends to happen to me quite often as well. I just tend to brush it off and kind of laugh at it.
Mm-hmm.
I do the same as well, as far as try to brush. It's not even trying. It just seems to be the natural reaction just to go ahead and blow it off. And it's very much like, the people say, oh, I've never experienced anything. Yeah, they have. They're just like a lot of us, where we just try to go, oh no, that must have been my imagination, or that was something in my eye, even though I saw something flash across here. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I'm usually quick to blow it off. Typically, things have happened a little bit more recent that's not so typical. So
yeah, I'm a firm believer that if they're in my home, I try to just pretend they're not here, because my rule is don't communicate with me at home. You can communicate with me out of the house all you want, but my home is my home. And they've come and gone. I've seen them, flashes, people walking down the hallway. And we even had this one place that we lived in when we were in Florida. I called him George because I would see him. He looked like an old orange farmer. He had the overalls and the white shirt. And I would see him walk from the front door into my son's bedroom, which was right next to the front door. And I just ignored it. Then all of a sudden we'd start smelling cigar smoke. Or actually, I was the only one who ever experienced it. They all thought I was crazy. I'd start smelling cigar smoke. So I walked outside, walked around where my apartment was to make sure nobody was outside smoking. Nobody was. And then finally, I just said, George, stop it. I don't allow smoking in the house. And it stopped. But other than that, I truly try not to interact with them in my home.
It's all about boundaries, and I think
Mhm.
too, with this field, we kind of get consumed. I know there's times when I've stayed up to 1 o'clock in the morning, and I've had to call the police on the client to make sure that they're well in another state, and so this job can be consuming, but it's a passion. But with that said, there has to be boundaries as well. You always
Yeah.
have to give your time, space for your family, and all that, and go out, have fun, take a walk, do different things. Like my office. Basically my office is where I go I do the school, and my seminary, and I work the cases and all that, but that's it. It's my office. Once I step out this office, that's it. It all stays near. My wife knows, hey, look, at the office is blessed, everything, this and that. She'll play her video games, and she'll like, hey babe, something happened. I go, well, you're kind of in the ghost office, so you kind of have that, you kind of know what's going on. But generally speaking, boundaries are always a good thing to have. You know what I mean? I think once you set your boundaries and you set a firm foundation, you'll be able to learn to manage these things and these occurrences as well.
Yeah.
Okay. And Jamie wants to know, when portals are closed, do they remain closed? If not, what opens them back up? I guess I can take this one.
Yeah.
Basically, they can, I guess you could say they could reopen, but it's one of those things where like lightning doesn't strike twice in the same spot. The portal could be here and then it's like 2 inches over. So it kind of just reopens. Sometimes they reopen on their own based on the energy around the area from my experience. And additionally, someone could open it. You can have someone, do some type of black magic ceremony, or even just a regular, I don't really want to say psychic ceremony, but someone could just try to reach out to a family member, and that, unintentionally opens a portal. Using a Ouija board and not knowing what you're doing could open it. There's a lot of different things that could open those portals that allow the spirits into our world.
Yeah. Jamie, if you're referring to this situation that we had at your place a few months ago, you can PM me about that, and I'll get you connected again. Typically speaking, portals should be closed, but where you live at right now, you have such high electromagnetic energy in your apartment complex, and you're so sensitive and you're still open to things, that I have no doubt that maybe something could have opened up. Doesn't necessarily mean it's bad, but once again, please PM me. We'll get you taken care of. I'll connect you to another one of our psychics, and we'll try to tackle this case. This is an ongoing case, and we'll do the very best we can to take care of you, Jamie. You've got my number. You can always text me.
Any other stories? We're done with the questions so far.
Oh yeah. How many do you want? I work with people all across as we say, it doesn't matter what country they're in. If we can communicate with them, I'll share anything I have, my techniques or anything else. And sometimes I can't get to a location. It might be on the other side of the country. I can't be there. So I actually walk people through certain things that happen. We were doing our regular shows, had a woman turn around and said, I wish you'd talk to my cousin. He's not doing very well. And she explained to me, she already gave me heads up, he's technically mentally ill. He was the most sane person I've ever talked to in my life. It was a great conversations. Every one I had, he was so open. He threw it out there. He had no problem holding it back, not holding it back. He just was very open for a change. It took a little bit to go ahead and build up his trust. I started talking to him. He's dancing on the borderline about, to get rid of whatever was negative that was happening to him, to possibly cross over. Not a good idea. You don't want to take your life for that. You just put yourself right in that situation, even worse. So talk to him a little bit, try to work on it. And at first we were only communicating probably once a month. Took a while to go ahead and build his trust up, finally get to a point where we're actually talking. Then he gets into where all of a sudden he's bleeding out of every orifice he's bleeding from. The medical staff can't figure out why he's bleeding so much. And he finally breaks down and is now willing to do anything, because he's an adult living with his elderly parents at the time. And he says, look, if I'm crazy, I'm fine with that. But what do you do, Rob, when your mom is being dragged across the floor by her hair? How am I supposed to protect my parents? I mean, what am I supposed to do? And there's no question he was heartfelt about it. And now both his parents were being subjected to physical harm as well. End up giving him the information, send him a care package out of the stuff that I use. That's typically what I do, is I send, the holy water, the sage, whatever necklaces. I have particular blessed necklaces that I use, and get them into his hands. And then I explain what to do. He's got a cousin Well, first he goes ahead and goes through the house, but he doesn't push out the basement. So I get him to seal the door. And this goes on, drags out for a couple of weeks because, typically when you do a cleansing, you're pushing it completely out. You don't leave voids. You don't leave it to sit there, and because they don't leave by themselves when it's very nasty. And besides, the regular scratches, the voices, the disembodied voices, all this stuff is happening. But now all three people in the house are hearing it, not just the person who's, quote, mentally ill. Mental illness can be everything from PTSD to pretty much any, it's so open, so people hear that and they think, oh my gosh, this person can't function. Yeah, people can function perfectly fine. I think we all have some type of mental illness, quite honestly, at one degree or another, especially after COVID. So I finally get him to go ahead and take the steps that I'm looking at. He works his way from the top out of the attic, goes to the floor, all the way down to the ground floor, up to the basement. And so for 2 weeks, I'm trying to coax him to do the basement. He goes, no, I'm scared of the basement. No, I don't want to go in the basement. Almost 2 weeks, get a gap of probably 3 or 4 days goes by, and he hits me up and calls me, and he says, look, I ran down to the basement because my mom needed something. I didn't want to go down there, but I didn't feel anything down there, and it didn't do anything to me. So do you think it's gone? I was like, oh, no, it's not gone. They don't leave like that. Sorry. Wish. And I say, you need to have somebody help you finish it out. Now you've opened up the basement door. You've opened up the barriers. You need to push it on out. Well, he says, okay, my cousin is a priest. He doesn't believe in anything evil. He doesn't believe in this type of stuff. I was like, all right, cool. The end result was a quick message back from him. Yeah, no, that didn't work out too well. I got thrown down on the ground 3 times. My cousin got thrown into the wall and knocked the back door completely off. And the Amish are here building a back door for our basement because there was nothing open at the time. I was trying to get him to go down and open up the basement door so he could finish pushing it out. So by the time it was done, the door itself was literally blown off the hinges. Wow. And both of them were, and his cousin definitely believes in evil now at this point. He's got a whole change of. The gentleman is on half the medication he was ever on before and has never bled out of any unnatural orifice again. All of a sudden, a lot of his medical conditions just went done.
Yeah. These things can be very afflicting. I know in the past there's been cases, especially we talked about with Chris McKinnell. He did help out a case. Was it Maurice Theriault's case? I think it was a Maurice Theriault case. That was an unfortunate case. He went to help out, and unfortunately, at the end of the day, the gentleman lost Mauricio. He lost the battle with the entity. He took his own life because he didn't want to kill his wife. But the problem is that what we're facing too, I think for me, I'm an ordained minister. I'm in seminary. I've got a year left. But that doesn't mean anything. Schooling means nothing. I think at the end of the day, if you're going to want to help people, especially as a clergy, you kind of have to believe. And that's the biggest consensus that I've seen to a lot of clergy on this side. They don't believe in this stuff anymore. Mm-hmm. And so, there's nothing wrong with science. Yeah, you can lead to science, psychology, all this stuff. That's great. Those are very important tools to have. But sometimes it's just cut and dry, and the evil is there. And you see all these things happening. And it's unfortunate that, sometimes the clergy doesn't want to help, and these things happen. And it's kind of sad that they don't believe. I mean, there's good and evil, whether you believe in Allah, whether you believe in Zeus, Thor, there's always good and bad. It's out there. And you go to any part of the world, ancient times, Mesopotamia, you can go to the times of the Greek, you can talk, the Aztecs and the Mayans. There was always some form of evil or, good or evil. And there are entities that can take over you. And, unfortunately, a lot of people don't believe, and people end up paying the ultimate sacrifice. So I'm glad that, I'm with like-minded individuals like Heather and you, Robert. We're helping these people out. It's sad. It breaks my heart because these are really serious issues, and I wish there was more understanding from the clergy side, from the bigger side. But you know what? That's why there's people like us to help out.
Yeah, I agree. And at the same time, I don't blame all people in the clergy, because until you actually come face to face, if we're sitting here talking and all of a sudden the whites of my eyes, I'm talking like the actual whites of my eyes, if they turn jet black, talking to any of the viewers there, honestly, what do you think your reaction is going to be? So until somebody comes into something that physically changes or something that you've grown up knowing can't happen, how are you going to react? And fear is human nature. Unfortunately, it is definitely well instilled in us. And those that are successful, it's like if I'm talking to a client, I'm like, look, you hear me laugh, relax. It's okay, because I am going to be cracking up about this because it's all, there's so much more that goes on here that most people, I've got the holy water and you see the sage smoke. That's only doing a portion of it. There's more that's actually going on up here, and it's our belief system. And every religion, no matter what, read through everything, it comes back to this key word, faith. And that faith is extremely, extremely powerful, and it depends on how you want to use it.
Yeah, and that's one of the biggest things that we tell our clients as well. We'll come in and we'll help you do the work, but you also kind of have to do the legwork as well. You got to stay positive. You got to have some faith in whatever you believe in. You can't give into this negative energy. And ultimately, I think, it's a 50-50 relationship. As investigators and researchers, we come in and we provide the tools, but it's up to you to decide whether or not you want to continue with that route. Fear, once again, fear. Fear is the biggest thing. But I think if you have faith, and you try to be lighthearted about it, stay positive and focused, I think things will be okay. Mm-hmm. And thank you for the clarification about not all clergy.
Okay. Jerry wants to know if any of us know if you take your own life due to a spirit, does that spirit claim your spirit? You want to know if that made sense? I think it does make sense, but that's not an area I'm familiar with in my area of paranormal research. So I'm hoping you guys have a response to that.
Robert, would you like to go first?
Sure, absolutely. Jerry, good to see you, buddy. Absolutely. Can that happen? I know I've been at locations where other energies or even just a grumpy, nasty human spirit has held other spirits back, wouldn't let them cross over. And we've done a crossover for that. It's amazing where the activity can completely change, There's no reason that if we go to a location and the activity is absolutely there and we just do a crossing and all of a sudden there's never activity anymore, it doesn't really make a lot of sense unless something actually just happened. Again, one time, fine, it's a placebo effect for everybody. But after you watch it happen so many times, and even in locations, I'm watching the animals more than I'm watching the people there because we're so subjected to our imagination playing tricks on us. Animals are pretty straightforward. So when you watch how it can change with them. So for me, I know in my experience, I would say yes, absolutely. Certain ones can. It's not just generally everything's going to, but that's what we're watching out for with attachments, where somebody can be pushed to the edge and they're thinking they're escaping by just taking their own life, which was the end game for what this entity was trying to get them to do in the first place.
Yeah. Now, Jerry, when you say spirit, claim your spirit, are you thinking about, maybe I'm misinterpreting the question, are you saying can that evil spirit possess your soul? If that's the question, I don't think so. Your soul is individual. It's given to you by your creator. And I don't think anything can take over that soul. However, like Robert said, I think that it can be held captive. I mean, we look at The Conjuring and we look at these different cases where we have good spirits that are trapped in by evil spirits. So I would say, if the question is, can the evil spirit take over your spirit when you're dead? I don't think so. I don't think it can, but I think it can keep a spirit, earthbound or hostage.
Right. Great question.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no more questions, but we have about 5 minutes before we need to wrap up. Anyone have a quick story?
You want to, Ken? It's up to you.
Well, no, you can go. I'm trying to think of my memory bank. I'm like, what
real quick story. It's very common for me to go ahead and run out, and if something's happening bad enough, I'll just get out and drive. And at one point, I actually called outside. I called for somebody who was in the clergy. He was going through very much like Ken is right now, in the process. But instead of showing up in any type of wardrobe that would show that, he actually had camouflage jeans on, regular shirt on, just it was kind of a test when we got there. We met before we got to the location. We want to see what the person's reaction was going to be. What I got is I got a call from this guy's best friend saying, hey, my best friend has just completely changed. His kids, his wife, everybody's scared. He's tearing the house apart. It doesn't make any sense, but now he's into these rages. He keeps having this different language that comes out. After every day, it was getting worse. So by the fourth day, I made plans to go ahead and drive up to this location because then it was getting physical. The guy was getting attacked. His best friend was coming at him. We get to the location, and it was almost like a cold call where it didn't seem like anybody knew we were coming. The best friend wasn't there at the time, so I'm knocking at the door with this other gentleman that was with me, and we finally get invited in. We go in, the guy's sitting in a chair, and he's laid back like he can't even move. So how this guy has actually been physical towards anybody doesn't make a whole lot of sense. We end up at different times. We don't always keep the chemistry the same. We will move as far as let one of us be interacting with the person. And like I wanted the person with the clergy to see if it would respond to that. Because at the point, you don't always know, is it possession? Is it just mental illness? Is it something else? We're always trying to figure that part out. Well, let's see if it's going to be a religious person, if that's going to make a difference to it. It was actually every time I come to the guy's backside, he would start, it was like his breath would go into, he would pant like a dog. I mean, he was just, seriously, he'd be, and he starts screaming, I hate you, I'm going to kill you. And then again, I throw out just what little bit of Latin I know. And then he would go into this, and his friend is here at this point, and his friend is just like blown away. He's terrified. He's going, what did he say? What? I don't know. It sounds like the Godfather. It sounded cool. He's just going to town. In the middle of this, and this is what you really need to know if you're dealing with these cases, you can't underestimate what can happen. In the middle of this guy, and he never changed into that reaction as far as like panting and going into a different voice or anything when the person from the clergy was there. But when I would come up behind his back shoulder, and I would just touch him or anything, he would lose his mind at that point. As soon as he comes out, he'd start crying and saying, I'm sorry, whatever I did, I'm sorry. And this happened a couple times. About the fourth time, his friend goes, Rob, look. And when I turned around, the guy had just came off of that. Come find out, he had the longest, I can't even put it on the screen. He had the longest knife that was stuck in the side of his chair that he had been sitting in the whole time. And I never knew it was even there. And he says, here, you're going to take this right now. Which nicely he was offering at this point. Fortunately, it wasn't when he was in the other state of mind. So how easily this guy could have easily just picked that up and shish kebab, it would have been over. You start learning to change your body where your body's going to be at. And again, it's always a learning curve that you go on. Ultimately, by the time we were done, the guy was getting over a broken back. So how he could even be up fighting with anybody didn't make any sense. When we were done, and even on the clergy side, we treated both the house, him, and from the religious side. The guy was like 6'6". He was huge, and he's all smiles. And I've got pictures before and after, and it's completely the looks that you see how somebody will change from 1 minute to the next is amazing. And that was beyond. It's great when you see somebody who can smile and they got their life back. It's incredible.
It is. It's true. I got one more quick story. Actually, maybe some advice. So we were dealing with a case with a gentleman in the Midwest, and this is why I go back to make sure you know what you're doing. So we had this gentleman that contacted me and stating that he was haunted and he was possessed because he had contacted 3 other paranormal teams, and he said, you are possessed, you are haunted. And so that just created another element in his mind. And so what ended up happening is we have a resource out there, or we got him connected with a psychologist. We did some research. We did all that stuff, release of information. Turns out that the guy did have mental illness. He was on benzos. He had psychosis. And so he was going through a multiple array of different feelings, but he kept on focusing on the paranormal. Why? Because other teams had told him that it was paranormal without doing your diligent research. And I know Robert had mentioned this earlier. I am a big stickler for, the medical and the psychological part, although sometimes it's just cut and dry and you can see that it's not needed. It's a full-on possession. But just make sure that when you do these things, don't come to a quick judgment right away. Don't give a quick analysis, because what that did is it kept my team and I up till 3 o'clock in the morning doing welfare checks on him because he was homeless He had a addiction recovery. He was assaulted, and so we stayed up for hours on nights. Calling the police to make sure he had a welfare check, trying to help him out, GPS his phone, making sure he had certain things. So the paranormal, it's not just paranormal. You're doing it to help people and protect people, and so that's what we'll do. That's what I'll do. My team and I, and I'm sure Robert and everyone else, we will stay up and we will do everything we can to protect you and make sure that you're okay and safe. If we can rule out the paranormal, that's great. Second word of advice: whenever you go to a location, make sure you kind of get a reading for the area. Like my team and I were retired military. 3 of us went to Army Ranger and the others a Marine like me. So we look at different areas of the house. We look for weapons. We look for drugs. We look for different types of things. That type of stuff can also give you a reading for what type of night, how the night may go, or the certain allegations of what. So, this is happening. Well, I see that this guy has a rail of cocaine and syringes out there. He may be high off of something. So be safe. Be safe. Always watch out.
Yep. And we have one more last question that I'm going to squeeze in before we do our closing. It's how often do you find that people who are having hauntings have had other kinds of paranormal experiences or history? In my experience, when we do residentials, the more you dig into talking to the client, calling them back, checking in on them, and just building that relationship, I would say about 80% of my cases, they've had some type of paranormal activity that they just didn't realize when they were younger, which means, they're more open and susceptible to bringing, attracting paranormal activity. And that number is high, I know, but I really haven't done many residentials. I'm more of the behind the scenes and research girl. So, but yeah, that's my experience, that a lot of them do have some type of experience that they just forgot about or didn't realize when they were younger.
Yeah, same here. I feel the same way, especially too, when we're dealing with people that have abilities as well. I think that as you get older and you start coming to terms with your abilities, you might start experiencing some stuff even more.
Okay. Well, we are closing out. So can you guys let everybody know where they can find you on Facebook or online? I was going to say we can start with Ken.
Yeah, my name is Ken Torres. You can find my group called Paranormal Connection, or you can find me. I am a regional director with the Warren Legacy Foundation for Paranormal Research. I went ahead and put the information in the link. You can go ahead and contact us. I'm out on the West Coast. And once again, Paranormal Connection on Facebook, or Kenneth Torres, just add me. You know what I mean? I'm a cool, down-to-earth guy.
Yes, he is. I'm Rob Murphy again. I'm the founder of Elite Paranormal Society. You can easily type that in. As far as on Facebook search, same thing for Ken, Heather, any of us. You can just type our names in. We'll come up pretty easy. Get a hold of us. Do have YouTube as well. Ken, do you have YouTube as well?
I don't have YouTube. Not at all.
Don't blame. Trying to keep up with the social media side is just, I don't have the time for it, unfortunately.
Yeah, I have a personal Instagram, but that's it.
There you go. Heather, yours?
Yes, I'm the founder of Exploration Paranormal out here in Las Vegas, and it's just actually my family and I. We go out and we do investigations of different locations, and when we do get cases, I do work with the Warren. I'm regional director out here as well for the Warren Legacy Foundation for Paranormal Research. You can find us if you go into Facebook. It's Exploration Paranormal. Also, that's our website. And then you can also find me. I have a blog and I do videos through Touch of Magic, talking about different ways to protect yourself against the paranormal on the magic side. And that you can find at Dr. Heather Lee on Facebook as well. And I am going to give you guys some information about Ghost Education 101 before we leave. You can follow us at Ghost Education 101 on Facebook. We are here. You can ask questions. We also share tips. We go live every 2 weeks. And just to give you a quick rundown, next time we go live is August 4th. We are going to have my friend Larry Lawson from Florida. He's a former member of the Sheriff's Department down there and founder of the Florida Bureau of Paranormal Investigations. We are going to talk about ethics in paranormal research and the importance of documenting your investigations. And then future upcoming presentations we have is, I know it's everyone's favorite, but paranormal investigation forms. You have to fill them out. We will be talking about the different forms you need. And then we will have Chris McKinnell, founder of the Warren Legacy Foundation for Paranormal Research. He will also be talking about paranormal ethics and the different cases that he did with his grandparents, Ed and Lorraine Warren. We'll have Parapsychology for Ghost Hunters, which is hosted by Lloyd Arbach. He'll be joining me. As well as closer to Christmas, we are going to have Christmas Ghost Stories. And if you missed part of today, wrong button, hold on. If you missed part of today's presentation, it'll be uploaded to YouTube tomorrow. You can check us out at Ghost Education 101. And then again, here are the details for when Larry joins me next time. So thank you guys for joining us. Thank you guys. I really appreciate you guys being here. It's so informative. I love being able to help people and share our information. And you guys had some great stories and tips for everybody.
Thanks for having us on. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having us. Sorry if I blab too much. It's my TBI from the military stuff. I talk a lot.
No problem.
Right.
And I would love to have you guys join us again. So I will definitely be in touch for some other presentations that we do.
Awesome. Anytime, Heather. And Robert, I send you a friend request, sir. Humbled, honor to be sharing the room with you.
I'm thinking you're drinking a little much. Vice versa. Seriously, thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
Good night, guys.